We're going to take you back to our top story of the day, the protests here in France, because we have been able to get France 24's own Mark Owen. He is reporting from Nanterre in the suburbs of Paris, which has really been the epicenter of these protests. Mark, in some ways, this feels like a make or break weekend for the government to get this situation under control. Can you tell us a little bit more about the measures that officials are taking?
I think that's very much the case. Just to give you a bit of context, behind me, just about 800 meters away, that's the Grande Arche of La Défense. The business district is there. That way, just about 50 meters, is where the tragedy took place, where the police officer shot a 17-year-old man in his car and killed him. Of course, since then, there's been mayhem disrupting it every night, especially centered around Nanterre and of course spreading across the country. Now, in terms of what the politicians are trying to do, clearly Emmanuel Macron cancelling his time at the EU summit, cancelling his press conference after that, coming straight back for a second emergency meeting here in France. The hint coming from both him and from Elizabeth Borne, the Prime Minister, of a state of emergency to be imposed. And what we've heard also later this evening, public transport across France to stop from 9 p.m. So clearly measures being taken to keep people contained in a certain way, shape or form. What that won't stop, of course, is what we've seen here in Nanterre on successive nights since the killing of Naël, the 17-year-old boy in question. We've seen on successive nights cars, vans burned in the street, police officers targeted with fireworks, and of course riot police going into certain quarters of Nanterre in order to try and quell the problem. That looks like it's set to continue, and of course we're coming into the weekend.
So, Mark, how are people there in Nanterre, residents, how are they bracing for more violence that's probably going to come this weekend?
There is a sense here of tension. There's a sense here of injustice too. Many people we've spoken to today have talked about how they feel that the media is adding to the perception that Nanterre is a bad place to be. And, to be fair to these people, they are ordinary citizens going about their lives. We've been speaking to people running shops, cafes, walking around. They're already packing up now. They know the business is over. They've done no business for 2 days. They're worried that their shops, their businesses, their windows may well be smashed by something that might happen this evening. And there's no way of actually predicting where it's going to take place. In this area here, which is behind the great arch of La Défense, the business district, you'd think it would be quite safe. But just about 40 meters to me, behind me on the right there are people boarding up their windows, people trying to repair damage that was done to their property over the past 2 nights. So it's hard to predict what will happen. It's hard to see that any kind of restriction on transport and travelling will stop people within the quarter that they live in acting up and carrying out the protests that they've been doing so far. Clearly, at the beginning of this, the President, the Prime Minister, the Interior Minister in France, in an unprecedented move, condemned the police and had sympathy with the people who are aggrieved. But as it has grown more and more, and as violence has become a bigger problem, now that is changing, and they're saying that it's completely out of order for people to do what they have been doing.